Hey guys, in today's lecture we'll be discussing popular misunderstanding. Now, popular misunderstanding is a type of semantic change whereby a misunderstanding may lead to the change in meaning of certain words. Okay, so here misunderstandings might lead to the change in meaning of certain words. Now, let's take a look at some of the examples, then you'll be able to understand it further. Take the word preposterous. The word preposterous is used as an adjective. Now, the literal meaning of the word preposterous is something which is intolerably absurd. It is an adjective and it means intolerably absurd. But how did the word preposterous acquire such a meaning? Now, if you take the word preposterous, it has two prefixes in it, right? What are they? It has pre and post coming together. Now, pre and post are Latin prefixes. And what is the meaning of pre? The meaning of the Latin prefix pre is something that comes before, and the meaning of the Latin prefix post is something that comes after. We often talk about pre-independence time period to refer to the time that came before independence, and post-independence period to refer to the time period that came after independence. Right? Now, if you are caught in a preposterous situation, it means you are caught in a intolerably absurd situation. Now, let me make it clear to you. Suppose you are drawing a cart. Now, normally a horse should come first and then comes the cart. ഹോഴ്സ് ആണ് ഒരു കാർട്ട് ഓട്ടിക്കുമ്പോൾ, ഒരു ഹോഴ്സ് കാർട്ട് ഓട്ടിക്കുമ്പോൾ ഹോഴ്സ് ആണ് ആദ്യം പ്ലേസ് ചെയ്യുന്നത്. ഹോഴ്സിന് ശേഷമാണ് കാർട്ട് വരുന്നത്. വി വോണ്ട് പ്ലേസ് ദ ഹോഴ്സ് after the cart, right? Then you won't be able to ride the cart if you place the horse after the cart. Now, in the literal sense, a preposterous situation is one in which the first comes last and last comes first. First comes last and last comes first. Okay? So, after here, pre, after, before and after. When you say before and after, the first comes last and the last comes first. So, in the case of the cart and the horse, if the cart is put before the horse, if the cart is put before the horse, then that is a preposterous situation. Now, imagine a businessman. A businessman will always speak in an authoritarian manner to his subordinates. Now, suppose a businessman is asked to speak in a very submissive manner with his subordinates, then that can be considered as a preposterous situation, right? So, usually, a businessman is an authority of his business and he would speak in an authoritarian manner with his subordinates. But if the businessman has to speak in a very submissive manner to his subordinate, then that is a preposterous situation. So, in this sense, again, the first is last and the last is first. That is, the businessman is kept last and the last person, that is, the subordinate, comes first. Now, in such situations where first comes last and last comes first, it may lead to a kind of absurdity. Now, what is the meaning of absurd? Something which is meaningless, something which is useless, right? Meaningless things. So, this will lead to a kind of meaninglessness. So, what is the need for a subordinate if he is not acting like a subordinate? That is a very absurd situation, right? A meaningless situation. Now, such situations not only create absurdity, but it also create a kind of annoyance and an outrage. We might feel annoyed with such situations if it happens, and we might also express our anger or our outrage at such situations. So these situations are intolerably absurd. They are not only meaningless, but it is intolerably absurd. We are not even able to tolerate such an absurdity. So such situations are known as preposterous situations. Preposterous. So what is the literal meaning of the word preposterous? The literal meaning comes from two Latin prefixes, pre and post, which means before and after. So if you're caught in a preposterous situation, that means the first is considered as last and the last is considered as first. Now such situations are not only absurd, but it also create annoyance and outrage. Hence, a preposterous situation is intolerably absurd. That is how the modern day meaning came into being. Now let's look at another example for popular misunderstanding. Let's consider the word premise. Now the word premise, in the olden days it was used as a syllogism. Now a syllogism is a chain of arguments from which certain facts can be deduced. For example, consider the statements: all flowers needs light, roses are flowers, roses needs light. So all flowers need light. That is the first statement. All flowers need light. Roses are flowers. So what is the meaning of roses are flowers? If roses are flowers, then roses also need light, right? So roses needs light. So the last statement is made from the first two arguments. So a chain of arguments will be given, and from the first two arguments you will be able to deduce a fact that is known as syllogism. Okay. So suppose if I say all candy is made of sugar, all lollipops are candy, then lollipops are also made of sugar, right? That is something that we can deduce from the previous statement. So this is a syllogism. Now, when it comes to the word premise, the word premise was used in old documents, right? It was used to refer to the property. In old documents, it was used to refer back to the property which had been fully described at an earlier stage. So when you take documents, deeds for that matter, land deeds for that matter, a detailed description of the property would be given at the very beginning, right? നിങ്ങളൊരു ആധാരം എടുത്ത് നോക്കിക്കഴിഞ്ഞാൽ ഒരു പ്രോപ്പർട്ടിയുടെ ഡീറ്റെയിൽ ഡിസ്ക്രിപ്ഷൻ അതിൻ്റെ ആദ്യം ഏറ്റവും ബിഗിനിങ്ങിൽ കൊടുത്തിട്ടുണ്ടായിരിക്കും, right? Now later on, whenever we have to we need to point back to the detailed description, we might use the word premise instead. Okay, നമ്മൾ ആദ്യം ഒരു ലീഗൽ ഡോക്യുമെൻ്റ് എടുത്താൽ ഒരു പ്രോപ്പർട്ടിയുടെ ടൈറ്റിൽ ഡീഡ് എടുത്തു കഴിഞ്ഞാൽ a detailed description of that property will be given at the very beginning. Then from there onwards, whenever there is a need to refer to that description again, instead of repeating all the facts, it would be called the premises of the situation എന്ന് പറയും. premises എന്ന് പറയുന്നത് നേരത്തെ നമ്മൾ ആ ഒരു പ്രോപ്പർട്ടീനെ പറ്റി കൊടുത്ത ഒരു ഡീറ്റെയിൽഡ് പിക്ചറാണ്, ഫസ്റ്റ് ബിഗിനിങ്ങിൽ കൊടുത്ത ഡീറ്റെയിൽഡ് പിക്ചറാണ്, റൈറ്റ്? നൗ ഈ ഒരു കോഡ് റിലേറ്റ് ചെയ്തിട്ടുള്ള ടൈറ്റിൽ ഡീഡ്സിൽ നിന്നാണ് premises എന്ന വാക്കിന് ഒരു ഹൗസ് അല്ലെങ്കിൽ ബിൽഡിങ്ങിന് ചുറ്റുമുള്ള സ്ഥലം എന്നൊക്കെ ഉള്ളൊരു മീനിങ് വന്നത്. അല്ലാതെ ഒറിജിനലി premises എന്ന് വെച്ച് കഴിഞ്ഞ് കഴിഞ്ഞാൽ ഇറ്റ് ഡിഡ്ന്റ് മീൻ ദ പ്രോപ്പർട്ടി ഓർ ദ പ്ലേസ് സറൗണ്ടിങ് ദ പ്രോപ്പർട്ടി. Okay, this word was used in a legal sense. In title deeds, often at the very beginning of the title deed, a detailed description of a property will be given. ഒരു ആധാരം എടുത്തു കഴിഞ്ഞാൽ ആ ആധാരത്തിൻ്റെ ആദ്യമൊക്കെ ഒരു പ്രോപ്പർട്ടീനെ പറ്റിയിട്ടുള്ള ഡീറ്റെയിൽ ഡിസ്ക്രിപ്ഷൻ കാണും. ആൻഡ് ലേറ്റർ ഓൺ ദർ ആർ മെനി പേജസ് ഇൻ വിച്ച് യു നീഡ് ടു റെഫർ ബാക്ക് ടു ദ ഡീറ്റെയിൽ ഡിസ്ക്രിപ്ഷൻ ഓഫ് ദ പ്രോപ്പർട്ടി. പിന്നീട് അകത്തോട്ടുള്ള പേജുകളിൽ ഈ ഡീറ്റെയിൽ ഡിസ്ക്രിപ്ഷൻ ഓഫ് ദ പ്രോപ്പർട്ടി വീണ്ടും റെഫർ ചെയ്യേണ്ട പേജുകളുണ്ടായിരിക്കും. സോ ഇൻസ്റ്റെഡ് ഓഫ് റൈറ്റിംഗ് ഇറ്റ് ഓവർ ആൻഡ് ഓവർ അഗൈൻ, ഡിസ്ക്രൈബിംഗ് ദ പ്രോപ്പർട്ടി ഓവർ ആൻഡ് ഓവർ അഗൈൻ, വി ജസ്റ്റ് റൈറ്റ് ദ പ്രെമിസസ്, ദ വേർഡ് ദ പ്രെമിസസ് എന്ന വാക്ക് യൂസ് ചെയ്യും. അപ്പം അതിൽ നിന്നാണ് പ്രോപ്പർട്ടീനെ ചുറ്റിപ്പറ്റിയിട്ടുള്ള സ്ഥലങ്ങളെ പറ്റി പറയുമ്പോൾ വെൻ വി ടോക്ക് അബൌട്ട് ബിൽഡിങ്സ്, വെൻ വി ടോക്ക് അബൌട്ട് എ ഹൗസ്, വി യൂസ് ദ ടേം premise, because people tend to attach the word premise with property and house, when in reality it was just used as a substitute to the information that was given in the title deed about the house. ഹൗസിനെ പറ്റി ടൈറ്റിൽ ഡീഡിൽ കൊടുത്തിരുന്ന ഡീറ്റെയിൽ ഇൻഫർമേഷന് പറയുന്ന പേരായിരുന്നു premise എന്ന് പറയുന്നത്. പക്ഷെ അതിൽ നിന്ന് നമ്മൾ പിന്നീട് എന്തായിട്ട് മാറി premisൻ്റെ അർത്ഥം? premise മീൻസ് എ ബിൽഡിംഗ്, എ ഹൗസ് ഓർ an area surrounding a property. ഇതെല്ലാം premise എന്ന രീതിയിൽ യൂസ് ചെയ്യാനായിട്ട് തുടങ്ങി. Another word is emergency. Now, if you have studied Latin, or if you know word formation for that matter, you would know that the word emergency comes from a Latin word which means something that comes to the surface. Emerge എന്ന വാക്കിൻ്റെ അർത്ഥം തന്നെ അതാണല്ലേ, something that comes to the surface. So the word emergency actually comes from the Latin word that means something that comes to the surface. That is something which emerges, something that comes to the surface. Now it so happens that something that emerges to the surface suddenly or unexpectedly might create an awkward situation, might confuse us, might create an awkward situation. And on top of that, there is another word which is urgency. And what is the meaning of the word urgency? Something which is of importance or something which is of a high priority, right? So a thing that suddenly emerges unexpectedly out of the blue might create an awkward situation. It might lead to a kind of thing that needs an important action or top priority thing. So again, the word emergency was again confused with the word urgency. Urgency means something which is of top priority, right? So the word emergency was confused with the word urgency, and now emergency means something that comes to the surface, something that is of importance, right? Emergency means a case which is of importance. The literal meaning would be a serious, unexpected, dangerous situation that needs immediate action, right? So a serious, unexpected situation which is often dangerous and it requires immediate action. That is the meaning of the word emergency. So the word emergency comes from the Latin word which means to come to the surface or emerge. Now, if something comes to the surface suddenly, unexpectedly, it would create an awkward situation. It is something which is unexpected. And those things that emerge unexpectedly might be a cause for alarm too. And then there was also this word urgency, and urgency in those days meant something which is of importance, something which is of top priority, which requires immediate attention. So the word urgency was again mistaken for the word emergence, and the word emergency came into being. What is the meaning of the word emergency? A serious, unexpected, and often dangerous situation that need immediate action. Someone confused the term emergency with urgency, and that is how the term acquired its new meaning. The new meaning means something that appears unexpectedly but which is dangerous and it requires immediate action or immediate attention. So with that, we come to an end to the lecture on popular misunderstanding. I hope that it was clear. If you have any doubts, feel free to ask. Thank you.